for us, every month is Mental Health Awareness Month. Every month for us is Pride. Every month is Black Mental Health Awareness Month, because the issues that we're facing are so big and they're not going to be solved in 30 days.
Welcome, everyone, to Couched in Color with Dr. Alfiee. I'm so honored to have my guests here today, and they are both with the Born This Way Foundation. And where I'm going to start is I'm going to ask them to please introduce themselves. I can tell a whole long story about how we met. I think one of the two is the first person who found me during the pandemic online, and then we just became like best BFFs online, and then it just kind of grew. And so we will start with the executive director. If you would please introduce yourself, tell us your pronouns. I learned that from you all, truly, to invite people to do that. And then we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alfiee. It's such an honor to be with you today. My name is Maya Smith. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am first and foremost a mom. I have two beautiful kids. They're 9 and 7, and it's for and with them that I do this work as the executive director of Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation. And I'm so honored to be with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we also have my beautiful friend. They're both beautiful inside and out. And I want to make sure I do this properly. And my additional friend that we have here today from Born This Way is Shadille Estepan. And if you would please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alfiee. It's a privilege to be speaking with you today. My name is Shadille Estepan. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I have the privilege of serving as Born This Way Foundation's Communication and Creative Manager.
Beautiful, beautiful. So why don't we just dive in? It's Mental Health Month as we're sitting here together today, and for our organizations, this month is a crush. And I know for Born This Way, June is also a crush because it's Pride Month. And then July is also People of Color Mental Health Month. So for both of us, it's another crush. And so it kind of doesn't stop from now to kind of like the end of the year, like the fall holidays. And so I would just love to hear a little bit from both of you about your thoughts on, the kind of obvious, but why is mental health important? And Shadille, can we start with you?
Thank you, Dr. Alfiee. And yes, as you shared, these months are heavy, and I feel like the work is never done, and that's because we all have mental health all the time, and that's why I think it's important to talk about it. I think it's important to educate ourselves around the topics of mental health and to understand how we can best lead into conversations about mental health that we are already having, just with a bit more of a guide. And at least for me, I wasn't always invited to talk about mental health because my family didn't really have the language around it. And I'm grateful to be part of an organization that gets to foster that for other young people and communities all around.
I love it. I love it. Maya?
I absolutely agree. And you're really the director of all that we do in the world as the creative and comms manager. So thank you for telling such a beautiful story for and with the young people that we work with. I think for us, every month is Mental Health Awareness Month. Every month for us is Pride. Every month is Black Mental Health Awareness Month, because the issues that we're facing are so big and they're not going to be solved in 30 days. And they're actually only going to be solved if we see ourselves as playing an active role in addressing racism, in addressing the dismantling of stigma, if we talk about building equity. And so for us, this is a movement to build a kinder and a braver world, a world that really, truly is not yet possible. But if we each see ourselves as having a role to play in getting there, I think we can get there a little bit quicker and hopefully a little bit more intact collectively, so we can all get there. And so for me, I'm proudly the daughter of a psychoanalyst. And so I thought everybody had to talk about their feelings all day. As it turns out, I am the exception and not the rule. So I was grateful, as Dr. Alfiee, you talk a lot about raising your amazing daughter as well, and what it means to have your superhero talents and be a parent. And so I had the joy of that experience as well. And so mental health is important to me, and it's always been important to me from that lens. But then unexpectedly, 12 years ago, we lost my father-in-law to suicide. And so I have both the incredible validation of having mental health be a part of my everyday life in good times and bad times and hard times and in beautiful times, but then also having experienced what I wish for no other family. And I think I know I've known this beautiful woman in the box next to me for 10, 12 years now, Shadille, which is incredible. And I know I speak on behalf of her and everyone on the team to say we all have really intensely personal reasons to do this work. And I know that everyone listening today has also been touched by it in some way.
So I wonder for both of you, what do you feel like gives you the courage to be open about your own experiences with mental health and to be at the forefront of this kind of work? Because I don't know that it's always easy for people to talk about their own journeys, particularly when we have marginalized identities. And I'll be clear, there are the marginalized identities that we're all pretty familiar with. And then there are those identities that are marginalized that I don't think we necessarily consider and frame as marginalized. So, for example, I have a very close girlfriend. Her name is Kathy Williams, who lost her son to suicide. She's very open about it when he was 15 years old. And I remember her sharing with me when she first started this work, it was like you didn't say suicide, it's kind of like suicide, like you kind of whispered it. And she's probably the generation right above me, like the boomer generation. And when she was growing up, nobody, like literally no one talked about it, right? And so I'm Gen X. Nobody really talked about it either in our generation. It was really the millennial generation where it really started to, and that's only recently that it started to really bubble up. And so some of that I think personally is because obviously there's stigma. I also think there's shame. I think people carry a lot of shame around loving someone who might have had a mental illness, caring for someone who might have had a mental illness, losing someone related to mental illness. And so for you all, how did you find the courage to be in the forefront, having these conversations and doing this kind of work? Whoever would like to start.
Shadille, do you want to?
Thank you. Um, I had so many people holding my hand along the way. That's how. Uh, be it Maya, be it our co-founders, Cynthia Germanata, Lady Gaga, quite literally, and in so many ways, our community at Born This Way Foundation, we all virtually hold each other's hands through this journey. As I shared, we all have mental health. It is a spectrum, and there are moments where our community is uplifted through the words that we share, through the stories that we lean into. It is, for me, in large part, the storytelling aspect of our work that helps break that barrier. It's talking about our experiences in safe spaces and creating that for other people. And so, as I shared it, in my community, we don't talk about mental health in the same way. And just yesterday, as I watched the group of young people sitting on stage, talking to the First Lady of the United States, talking to thousands of young people watching online, I heard a young girl on stage say, as a Dominican, as a Latina, here I am talking about mental health. This is what I do to care for my mental health. As a fellow Latina, just seeing this happen is monumentous. It's monumental, and it's a privilege to be in rooms like those. And so to bring spaces like those to young people across the world is my mission. And the mission of Born This Way Foundation is to continue to make kindness cool. This generation knows that it is, and we work with them to amplify the stories of those kind acts happening and to eliminate the stigma that surrounds mental health. And so we're just excited to do this work with young people and holding their hand along the way as someone.
I love that. I love that. And I want to shout out Ayana, because Ayana was one of the people in my group, Ayana Kelly, and she was fire. And she cracked me up. She has so much energy. And to your point, Shadille, it was important to see her specifically as a Latina, as a Dominicana, as a parent, as a veteran, all those identities in that one person. And so many people I know, in addition to you, resonated with what she said. and she's Afro-Latina, and she's very open about that, being a Black woman and Latina. And so there's so many aspects of her identity that allowed her to show up for people who probably have felt there's no one like them, right? There's no one out there like them who had any kind of mental health challenges. And so it was I agree with you 100%. It was absolutely beautiful. And I just appreciate you uplifting her and highlighting that in that way. And I also appreciate you being open about what it meant for you, and how you connected to it and related to it. And I think what you've given us is a model for, talking about what you all do at Born This Way, holding each other's hands, right? Being there to support each other and help move each other forward and creating safe spaces. And I know personally, from my experience with you all over the past 2 years, you absolutely 100% are always working very hard to create safe spaces across all aspects of identity. So Maya, did you want to tackle this question as well? How did you get into this space, and how do you show up continually for other people as an ally, right? As someone with lived experience through your family? How do you do that?
Thank you for asking that question and allowing me to build on that profound statement that Shadille made. I think being a parent for me is really the driver here, because there's a huge difference between talking about something and actually having taking actions towards that, right? So I can say to my kids, I want you to be vulnerable. I want you to trust me. I want you to come to me if something's happening. I want you to help me, let me help you when you fail, right? But if I don't show them how to be vulnerable, if I don't show them how to be sad, if I don't show them how to fail, if I don't show them how to argue, if I don't show them how to, how to reconcile, then the chances of them learning are diminished. And I think one of the big pieces of research that we did at the foundation that really stuck with me was a diary survey on how parents and children in the home ranked their discussions around mental health. And Dr. Alfiee, this won't be a surprise to you, but the parents all said, we're nailing it. We're doing a great job. And the kids were like, actually, not really. And,
Yeah.
and the number one reason is that they weren't modeling the type of vulnerability that they were being asked for. Right. And so we need to show our kids, right, whether they are our actual children or anybody who we encounter in our day, we need to model the type of openness and vulnerability and help seeking and kindness that we hope to be met with. And so I just think about it like that. Like when I'm opening the door for someone at coffee, you never know, like maybe that'll make them smile, or maybe that'll be the first time someone like noticed their existence, right? And we have in each of our actions and each of our choices the ability to impact both. And I think these past, we're still going through a pandemic right now. We are far from over. But I think these past 2.5, 3 years for me have highlighted the limited amount of time we have with folks. In a way, I'm 38 and I'm fortunate to have not been met with much tragedy and loss in my life. But these past 3 years really, I think for myself and a lot of people have opened our eyes to much more than we may have wanted to see.
Yes, absolutely. I think both of you have touched on things that are like really profoundly meaningful to me. And I'm so encouraged by the work that you do and how even through your own experiences, you don't shrink. You rise to meet other people. You rise to create space for other people to be able to express themselves, and you empower other people through all the different, I feel like every time I look up, Born This Way has a new initiative out there in the world. And I'm like, go, keep going. I love it. And they're all there. I really feel like in the space of really supporting young people and more important than just supporting, empowering young people. So it's not just we build these things in here, right? It's we build these things, here you go. And also you take them and push them forward. So I was looking at, I think it was TikTok. Maybe it was TikTok or maybe it was IG Reels. I can't remember. But some of the young people talking, right, about their own. I was like, first of all, I was like, dang, y'all fast. Good grief. How'd y'all do that so quick? But then I was like, just how meaningful is it to create and share the platform, right? To allow them this. And you always have young people out front. And so it makes me come full circle to think about even the name of the organization. Right. And so what I'm curious about, I know it's a song, but what I'm curious about is for each of you, What does Born This Way mean to you? Why don't we start with you, Maya?
Oh, I love this question. I thought you were gonna ask me about TikTok, and I was like, I just learned how to make these work. So,
Ma'am, yes,
I'm not
exactly.
the one to ask. but Josh Holland is our TikTok genius. So Born This Way to me means that you are perfect as you are, and as you define yourself, right? And I think that that is the most, who you believe yourself to be in the world is enough, and you're perfect that way, and that there's love and there's support and there's community for you, just uniquely for you, and I think we don't tell people that enough. And we're just really fortunate to have made careers out of getting the chance to tell people that they're needed and they're valued and they're beautiful. So that's what it means to me.
Beautiful. Shadille?
Thank you. And Maya, your words made me forget, just like thinking, because I agree so wholeheartedly with what you shared. It, and for me, Born This Way and Born This Way Foundation are an invitation. Those are messages to remind us all that we matter, as Maya said. It's a message to remind us that our beautiful individuality and the way that we show up in the world is of value, and that we can do so together because we were all born this way. And in the same way that the song and our mission continue to amplify that message, no matter where you come from, what your background is, what you identify as, what age you are, we're all made perfect, and there's nothing there to hold back on. We create this space where we can all hold each other and hold space for each other.
Oh,
And Dr.
that.
Alfiee, as you were
Yeah.
talking about saying all these really kind things to Shadille and I wanted to say you're rubber, we're glue, whatever that saying is, and sticks to you. I was feeling very, very immature about it. And I hope that you also know what a force you are in the world. I know that so much is asked of you every day and in so many different places that you probably don't have the chance to stop and celebrate yourself as a mother and a doctor and an academic and a convener and all of these other things. So I hope that we appreciate and take the kind words in, but I hope you hear them as well. And I'd love to, so you said empower, and Shadille and I actually have been talking a lot about this word. Yeah. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I've tried to stop saying empower because it implies that I have the power and I'm somehow giving it to you. And I love the way that you sort of instead say we all have it and we share it, right? So it's not one giving. I just love the way that you use that term in the generous way that it's intended. And so I think everything you say is just so thoughtful and curious and hopeful. And you are, like Shadille said, we're lucky to be in your orbit.
Oh, you're so sweet. I receive every bit of it. I thank you deeply for it. And as I reflect on, as a Black woman, what it means to think about empowerment, I think about it as embodying power. And so when I'm thinking about empower, it is really, how do we help people who, so many of us have always felt and been told and been shown that we don't have any power, right? In sort of in larger society. Maybe we have it in our homes, but even for some of us, we come from communities or maybe families where we don't feel like we have power. And so when I think about it, I totally respect and value what you're saying, Maya, and that it's not about, I agree with you. It's not about me take some of my power and give you some power. It's about what can I do, which I think the Acoma Project and Born This Way, you embody that. It is, what can I do to share with you and show you and maybe give you some tools or put you in a position where you can embody power. So to me, how does that show up? That shows up in the ways that you all share the platform, where I actually see the young people on the platform, right? On social media, right? To your comms expert extraordinaire diva, Shadille, and the team, it's not, their faces are not the ones that we always see. We see the young people. And for some of the young people that we encounter, you might be the only one placing them in that position. And until they met you, Nobody was putting them in that position. And so I think it's, are reflecting to the young people, you can embody power as well. I think about, it makes me emotional. I think about Juan. And the first time I met him, we were trying to plan him appearing on my podcast, and I was in Target. I'm not even kidding. And the book, the kindness book, was up there. And I think there was like a commercial playing, and he was in the commercial. And I'm almost positive I was either emailing him or we were on the phone. And I was like, wait a minute. That's right. And so it's right. And he talks about his own experience, Juan Acosta, and he talks about his own experience and where he came from. And would he have had that opportunity in other ways? Maybe. But you were a part of that journey for him. So for me, that's what it is how do we support people in embodying the power that's already within them? For many of us, it's just dormant. And we've never had anybody say, no, baby, the power, let me show you, let's do these touch points. This is where it is. So can you bring it up and let other people see it? And I feel like that's what you all do. So I want to think on that. I really resonate with that idea of it's not about us taking what power we have and giving it to other people. It is about how do we find the ways to touch people to let them know that there's power in them. And we're going to give you a platform to share the goodness and the beauty of who you are and the power that you have with the world out there. So I appreciate that. That's so
beautiful.
Thoughtful. I love that. I love that. So as we continue the conversation, I'm thinking a little bit about, there are two questions here. So I'm going to get to the second one for last, because I want to really ask this and think through this idea and hear your responses. Some of the recent initiatives that Born This Way, I'm thinking of two right off the top of my head. Can you talk a little bit about some of the recent initiatives that you all have birthed into the world, and what their meaning is for you all, and maybe where the ideas came from and why you feel like they're important for this moment in time? So pick any things that you want. It can be brand new. It could be something that's older. Just talk a little bit about some of the work that you all are doing.
Sure. Shadille, do you have a favorite? We can Rochambeau?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you. We're talking about Juan, we're talking about storytelling and the power that young people have to uplift what is happening in their communities, to share their experiences bravely, and to lean into storytelling. And Born This Way Foundation has a beautiful platform called Channel Kindness that is this space where young people can do that. And Dr. Alfiee, as you said, that we create programs for, by, and with young people. I started at Born This Way Foundation when I was just 19 years old as a youth advisory board member. We currently have a youth advisory board of 30 young people. And I'm so proud to say that our team members, specifically Aisha Mahmood, works directly with our Channel Kindness storytellers to help create and curate the stories in a way that makes them feel comfortable and open to sharing sometimes what can be a very deeply personal experience on a platform. But it is through this platform and this medium that we are holding each other's hands. That's how we're doing it. It's an aspect of our work, and it excites me every day to type channelkindness.org and to read the stories of young people who are moving mountains. They are starting nonprofits in their communities. They are recognizing the need in their communities or in others, and finding unique ways that their generation is just excited to do, finding unique ways to support communities and come closer to this kinder and braver world. And so I'm endlessly just will always shout out Channel Kindness and our colleagues Aisha, and also, if I may, you mentioned our TikTok. My colleague Josh Holland, he's just so having the chance to speak directly to the young people who are doing this work and featuring their faces and their voices matters to Born This Way Foundation, because we recognize the importance of representation. As a young Latina, as a
Yes.
person of color, to see
Yes.
other young people sharing their experiences, talking about the stories and the nonprofits they were able to start, or the volunteer work that they're doing in their community, and everything in between, because every inch that we get closer to the kinder and braver world, the closer we are. And so I wanted to share that about my two colleagues and our programs and our platforms. And we're excited for any and all young people and youth advocates who want to share their stories on channelkindness.org to go ahead and check us out.
Love it. Beautiful.
Shadil, I was in a interview today with Aisha, and she said something that is really profound. She said that all conversations with young people should be transformational, not transactional,
Ooh.
right? And I was just like, wow, she just casually threw that in there, but she is truly um, an incredible advocate and convener and leader. And so thank you for calling that one out. I would love to talk about the Be There certificate, because I
Of
think,
course.
to my initial point of, there's a difference between talking about mental health and putting tools, free, accessible tools that support one's mental health in the hands of young people and everyone. And Alex Aid is on a much needed vacation in Barcelona. So let's just also put in a little plug for self-care, which we do not talk about enough. We talk about kindness to others and not to ourselves. And his hard-earned vacation is not an act of kindness. He should be there, but I just really celebrate him for going and doing that. And I miss the bocadillos. But Alex spent the past 2 years working on this incredible mental health resource with our friends at jack.org, and it's called the Be There Certificate. It's at betherecertificate.org. And it's based on the 5 golden rules about how to lean into hard conversations, how to listen, how to know how to support and be there for someone else. And it sounds, if you had asked me, like, how do you be there for a loved one who's struggling, I might have fumbled through some answers. But now there's this module, there's this training. It's simultaneously available in English, French, and Spanish. So it's really accessible. It's free, and it teaches you how to be there for someone through data-informed, evidence-backed science. And so it's really incredible. And I think we did a call with the full team last week, and I think there's like 150 countries, young people from 150 countries that have already checked it out, which is just incredible. And we're honored and excited, but it also shows the need, right? And the lack of free, accessible mental health resources. There shouldn't be this many barriers to accessing mental health, right? And Dr. Alfiee, you and this conversation and your podcast, and every time you show up, you do so much in making that conversation more accessible. And still, we all have much more work to do.
Yes. I was hoping that one of you would mention the Be There certificate. So I'm really glad it just organically came, because it's so important, and it's, to your point, Maya, so accessible, and so helpful, right? And to have that much representation, to Shadille's point, that much representation, that's powerful, right? That's what it means to represent. That's what it means to be an ally. That's what it means to show up for other people in genuine, authentic, and, like I always say, unapologetic ways, to give them something that resonates with them that they can take in and make it their own, and then share with people in their own communities. And so I'm just so excited for all the work that you all are doing. So I'm wondering a little bit about, we talked about all these wonderful things and all the amazing things that you're doing. I wonder if you can shine a little bit of light for us on what you see as some of the challenges that our Gen Zers, maybe millennials, younger millennials, but our Gen Zers and our Gen Alpha young people, because you all work with those populations. What are some of the challenges you're seeing facing those young people in the context of the last 2 years?
Shadil, maybe I'll ask you to bring in the incredible Annalise. We have like a resident focus group in Shadil's incredible younger sister, who helps guide so much of our work. I don't know if you have thoughts, and I can add mine as well.
Thank you, Maya. So Dr. Alfiee, your question on the challenges that young people are facing, we see them in their schools, we see them in their homes, and we see them in their workplaces. There are spaces in which young people aren't always invited to talk about mental health, There are situations where the resource, when in a crisis, is not available. And generally, to Maya's sharing on the Be There certificate, there isn't always a framework for us to follow to lean into seemingly uncomfortable conversations. And so when I think of the challenges, I could definitely lean into the the groups of young people who are seeing the majority of sort of the heavier challenges due to policies and other specific events that are happening in our country, outside of our country, and as I mentioned, in our homes and our workplaces. And so I would say specifically the challenge is uh, being seen, and having emotions validated. So whether you are from the BIPOC community, whether you are a young Black person watching the news lately, and uh, and and quite frankly, a young LGBTQ person simply wanting to walk the halls of your school feeling safe. There are a lot of challenges that young people are facing, and I implore us all to take a moment to recognize what those challenges are, to find ways in our communities in which we can actively, to the point of action, support the young people in these spaces, create opportunities and resources where they are properly supported and seen and heard and validated in these spaces. And so we know that suicide is a leading cause of death for young people in the U.S. And that most mental health concerns emerge during the age of sort of the teen years.
Mhm.
And we want to be sure that as young people are growing and as they're reaching specific points in their lives and transitional periods, that they're being supported. And so when I think of my sister, I think of young graduating seniors. She is a high
Mhm.
school senior. She's 18 years old. She's a young Latina in a Miami high school. And I know right now there are so many young people on this transitional cusp in their lives, and trying to find these communities and create these spaces is can be the biggest challenge for them as they transition. And so what I say to them, and through this opportunity, thank you, Dr. Alfiee, for sharing this question with us. What I share with them is to, one, of course, please, if you are in need and there's an emergency in your community or in your space or in your life right now, please visit Born This Way Foundation, Born This Way Foundation, excuse me, and learn a bit more about the resources that are available to you. I will kick it over to Maya. I know there's a bit more to share there. Thank you, Maya.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think the two things that are on my heart right now are, as Shadille mentioned, trans LGBTQ young people who are having their very worth debated, and in just the most sort of public and offensive and abhorrent
Mhm.
terms. And then I think about
Yes.
this as the mother of two young white kids, right? Where
Mhm.
I thought my job was to not
Mhm.
let them get racist, right?
Mhm.
When
Mhm.
actually they are already in a
Mhm.
racist system, right? And
Mhm.
I actually
Mhm.
need to actively
Mhm.
undo the
Mhm.
racism that is
Mhm.
inherent
Mhm.
in so many structures in their lives. And so I
Mhm.
think what these past 2 years have done is it's blown up the idea that we've all experienced the same thing, right? And that for the mothers of young people, or the mothers of people who died, of Black people who died at higher rates of COVID, they didn't love their kids less than I did, right? But
Mhm.
because of
Mhm.
systemic racism and inequity in healthcare systems, right? So we have to really think about, again, I think the difference between talking about things and having taken an action to bring people in, to create inclusive systems, to undo systems that no longer serve all of us, right? And even I talk like I'm Texan now, because I said to my kids, I was like, don't let me say you guys. Don't let me say, you
Mhm.
guys, come on, you
Mhm.
guys get in the car. So what
Mhm.
we've started on is like, y'all, come here, y'all, like all
That's
day
it.
long, y'all, right?
That's right.
And
Yep.
in simple ways, we need to unlearn different practices that we have, like how to properly say Shadille's name, right? There's just
Yes.
things that we need to claim. And so to me, these past 2 years have erased the fact that we've all had similar experiences, which I was naive about in before, and also showed me that we need to break down the barriers to all of these tools that Shadille mentioned and make these conversations and the solutions as accessible as they can for everyone.
I love everything about that. That both of you, that's so beautiful. And it really speaks to what you all are about at the Born This Way Foundation, what we're about at the Acoma Project, where the idea is centering and uplifting these kinds of conversations and acknowledging the reality, right? And I think as a Gen Xer, there's so much time throughout my life where those things were not at the forefront. And I think for me, what the pandemic did was force a lot of people who maybe didn't know. I think it sort of put it in front of their faces, say, you kind of have to look at this now. I don't think that you're going to be able to look away from it in so many ways for so many different communities. So I appreciate everything that you all have both shared. And so the last thing I want to do, I'm going to prep you for it. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit and where it came from for me. So you can be thinking about it while I'm prepping you for it. And I don't really do a lot of rapid fire. So it doesn't have to be like quick, but I find it interesting. So Shadille and I were at the Pinterest Light the Shadows event a couple nights ago. And I did a closing meditation. And it had been on my heart. And I said, well, I'm going to just do it here. Let's practice it with this group. And so I asked 4 questions. I'm going to do the same thing with you all, but I have a 5th question. And the questions are simple. You know how we always say who, what, where, when, how? So those are the questions. And what I want to ask you to do, I'm going to do one at a time. I want to invite you, let me say it like that, to think about the first thing that comes to mind as I ask each one of those questions. It can be one word. It can be a phrase. It can be, I don't know if you want to elaborate. It's fine. However you want to answer it, that's what I would like to invite you to do. So we're going to start with beautiful Shadille. And I want to ask you each of these questions, and then I'm going to just pause and let you tell me what's your response. What are you thinking? Okay. The first question is who?
My sister.
Beautiful. What?
The sun.
Okay. It's perfect. It's perfect. Honestly, where? Where?
Right here, right now.
That's it. When?
Always.
Ooh. How?
With love.
Oh, honey. Oh my goodness. That to make me cry. I'm glad I'm doing this. This is powerful. Like this is just, oh, it's beautiful. Beautiful answers. Okay. No pressure, Maya. Just beautiful answers. Okay. So like I'm just deep breath in for me and blow it out so I can like be calm and cool as I go into this because Shadille really messed me up because those are some beautiful answers. All right. So Maya, beautiful. Who?
My son, Hunter.
What?
Pride.
Where?
At home.
When?
Always.
How?
All of us.
Amen. Wow. I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. That's just it's so powerful in so many ways. So I appreciate you both indulging me. I appreciate you both accepting my invitation. You're amazing people. And I want to thank you, Shadille Estepan, and Maya Smith from the Born This Way Foundation for taking a moment to share both of your light with me, to talk about what you're doing at Born This Way, to embody what it means to show up for yourself and practice kindness, but also show up for other people and practice kindness, show up for communities and practice kindness, and finally show up for the world, right? 150 countries, right? Between channel kindness and the Be There certificate globally, showing up for like the whole world to let them know that they're valuable, they're seen, they're heard, they're appreciated, and who they are is enough because they were born this way. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Alfiee. It was a privilege to be with both of you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
You're so welcome.